Welcome, everyone. I'm Jeffrey Taylor. For over 38 years, I've helped families, business owners, real estate investors, and professionals discover something that people never see. Today is not about getting out of debt. It's about understanding what debt is quietly costing you beyond the monthly payment. Because debt costs far more than money. Let me ask you a question. How much is your interest draining your capacity to buy another property, your capacity to expand your business, your capacity to invest in opportunities, and ultimately, your capacity to build wealth? See, most people don't know that answer. They know how much they owe, they know their payment, but they have never measured the hidden cost of carrying debt. We're going to change that today. By the end of this presentation, you're going to understand why people make this mistake, how they can own similar properties, have similar financial situations, but nevertheless transferring hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars away and not even realizing it. It isn't about earning more money. It's not about, it's more importantly to learn how money moves. I want to show you debt in a way that you're never going to see debt again, or you're going to look at debt in a far different way. So let's look beneath the surface. See, most people believe their mortgage payment is simply the cost of owning property. But what if your payment isn't your biggest expense? What if the real cost is the opportunity you never see? See, let's begin with this question. How much is your interest draining your capacity to buy another property, to expand your business, to create more cash flow, and ultimately to build more wealth? See, most people have never calculated it. They know the payment, they know the balance, but they don't know what the interest is preventing them from doing. This is the biggest expense. Here's what happens every month. A portion of our payment goes towards reducing principal, right? Another portion goes towards interest. That interest leaves your financial system. It no longer works for you. It works for someone else. Imagine trying to fill a swimming pool where there's a large drain open at the bottom. You ever seen this before? You keep adding water, but it never fills as quickly. Why? Because that water keeps leaving. That's how many families manage money. They're earning, they're saving, they're investing, but interest continues pulling wealth away. Now let's think bigger. Suppose that money could have remained under your control, could have been helped to fund another property, could have helped strengthen your business, could have provided greater financial flexibility during the downturn. These are the kinds of questions that successful business owners and investors ask. Now consider this. A successful business owner who has a purchase price of an $80,000 home puts down 20% financing over 30 years. Sounds typical, right? See, the monthly payment fits comfortably within the budget. Everything appears successful. But 5 years later, this property has appreciated, equity has increased, income has increased, but net worth looks impressive. But let's ask a different question. How much accessible cash is available for the next opportunity, of course? Many high-income professionals discover their wealth is tied up. Instead of working for them, they're property rich, but opportunity poor. That's not because they lack intelligence. It's because no one taught them to measure financial efficiency. See, this is a very, very important part, because financial success isn't about earning more. It's about reducing unnecessary wealth transfers and improving the way capital flows back into our own lives. Think about this. If you own a business or you have an investor company and one department is losing thousands of dollars, would you ignore it? Of course not. You would identify the leak. You would measure it. And then you would do what? You would improve it. Yet many families never perform that same review on their personal finances. Today, my goal isn't to tell you about a product to buy. My goal is to help you ask better questions. Questions like, how efficient is my money working? How much liquidity do I have? How much flexibility do I have to take advantage of the next opportunity? And am I transferring wealth away? See, those questions often matter just as much as the investment return people focus on. And here's another question for you. If I offered to reduce unnecessary financial drag without requiring you to earn a higher income, would that be worth exploring? Most people say yes, because improving efficiency creates options, and those options are valuable. This is why I describe myself as a wealth architect, because architects don't simply build, they design, they examine structure, they look for strengths and weaknesses before construction begins. The same ideal applies to money. The structure matters, not just the income, not just the investment, but the structure. And when the structure improves, ladies and gentlemen, the results often improve as well. So in the next session, I'll be introducing principles behind the 7-year blueprint, and I'll explain why many successful property owners begin moving beyond traditional thinking to explore ways of improving liquidity, efficiency, and long-term financial control. Let's continue. So when we talk about the 7-year blueprint, we want to identify the problem. We want to evaluate the problem. And then let's talk about the solution. Before I continue, I want to make something very clear. I'm not suggesting there is one financial strategy that fits everyone, every family, every business owner, every real estate investor has different goals, resources, risk, and tax considerations. That's why every recommendation should be reviewed with the appropriate licensed and qualified professionals. I'm simply introducing a different way of thinking from an entertainment perspective. Because if you continue thinking like a borrower, you'll continue getting borrower results. But if you begin thinking like a banker, everything changes. So let me ask you this. Who makes more money from your mortgage? You or the bank? From your credit cards? You or the bank? Most people immediately answer the bank. Exactly. Now ask yourself why. Because the bank understands something most borrowers never learn. The bank focuses on the movement of money, not simply the payment. Banks understand that whoever controls the flow of money usually controls the profit. That is the mindset shift. We move from simply making payments to intentionally designing the movement of capital. That is what I call wealth architecture. A wealth architect doesn't just ask, can you afford this property? A wealth architect asks, how efficiently will this property fit into your entire financial system? Will it improve liquidity? Will it improve cash flow? Will it strengthen your ability to purchase additional properties? Will it increase flexibility? Will it reduce unnecessary wealth transfers over time? Those questions change everything. Now it's time to learn how to structure your property to pay you. Many people believe their only option is to faithfully make mortgage payments for 30 years. But what if there were strategies that may position some families to become debt-free significantly sooner, depending on their income, cash flow, and overall financial situation? That's the conversation we should be having. This conversation should be based on guarantees, an objective conversation to eliminate debt quickly. The objective is to improve your financial position while increasing flexibility and maintaining appropriate liquidity. But here's something most people never hear. A paid-off property doesn't automatically create financial freedom. If every available dollar used to eliminate the mortgage, but there was little cash left or accessible to cash, that may create a different type of challenge. Because financial freedom isn't only measured in how little you owe, it's also measured by how much you control and how much liquidity you have and how many opportunities you can take advantage of. Now let's take a look at this case study. Let's walk through this. Let's call this guy Mike. He's a successful business owner. He has an annual income of $420,000. He has a primary property value of $950,000, a mortgage balance of $610,000, retirement accounts of $780,000, right? And a savings of $24,000. Now, when we look at this on paper, this guy looks pretty wealthy, right? And neighbors admire him. Friends assume he's financially free. But let's ask better questions. How much accessible capital does Michael have? If a $400,000 investment opportunity appeared next month, very little. Why? Because most of his wealth is trapped. Now imagine this. Instead of focusing on paying bills, Michael reorganizes his financial system and he begins measuring cash flow. He begins measuring liquidity. He begins measuring interest costs. He begins measuring capital efficiency. And he begins measuring future buying power and eliminating negative wealth transfer so that over time he discovers opportunities improve how money moves. Instead of every dollar disappearing, he's intentionally increasing his financial flexibility. Now, when another investment opportunity appears, he's better prepared. And that's the difference. He's better prepared for a crisis, for an unexpected situation. That's different architecture, ladies and gentlemen. Now, if we take a look at this, it's how much is your interest draining your capacity to buy another property? Remember this question? To increase your business, to build your wealth. How much is that interest costing you? Now write that question down, because that single question has changed the way many investors evaluate their finances. Now let's discuss this, a system we call the trifecta. The trifecta isn't about changing the highest or trying to get the highest investment return. It's about designing a coordinated financial system. The goal is to help money work together instead of in isolation. For some people, that may involve cash flow management. For others, it may involve increasing liquidity or reducing financing costs. The right approach depends on the individual circumstances. Think of it this way. Imagine an orchestra. If every musician plays a different song, the audience hears noise and chaos. But when the instrument follows the same score, the result is harmony. That's what financial coordination seeks to accomplish. But most people own excellent financial products, but they never are shown how to coordinate them, how to have them working together. That problem often isn't effort. That problem is organization. Now imagine this. Every dollar you earn, having a specific assignment, cash flow, protection, emergency reserves, future property purchases, business expansion, retirement, legacy. When money has a purpose, it tends to be managed more intentionally, right? That's why we created the customized blueprint, not a generic plan, but it's a blueprint. Just as no architect would design every building the same way, no financial strategy should assume every family has identical needs, right? This process begins with education, then an analysis, then thoughtful planning, then implementation if appropriate. My mission, ladies and gentlemen, isn't to convince you today. My mission is to challenge the way you think about money. Because when your thinking changes, your questions change. When your questions change, your decisions improve. And over time, better decisions can produce better outcomes. In our final section, I'll answer the questions I hear most often. Address common misconceptions. Show you how to calculate your own interest drain. And explain the 3 next steps you can take if you like to explore your own wealth architecture blueprint. Let's finish strong. Okay? All right, you got your pen and paper ready to go? Now, we've covered a lot today. But I want to answer the questions I hear almost every day. Question number 1. Are you ready? You ready? Are you telling me to pay off my mortgage tomorrow? No. I'm telling you to understand the true cost of carrying it and then determine whether there may be a more efficient way to reorganize your financial life. Question number 2. Are you a lender? Absolutely not. We're not lenders. We are wealth architects. and we design financial blueprints that help families, property owners, business owners, and investors evaluate how their money is organized. So your lending decisions remain between you, your mortgage professional, and your financial team. What I want to share with you is a far more organized way of handling your objectives. So why haven't I heard of this before? Because your educational system teaches us how to earn money, how to save money, how to invest money, but very little time is spent on what? Teaching us how to organize our money efficiently, like the bank. Let me ask one final question. How much is your interest draining your capacity? Remember this question. Your capacity to buy another property, your capacity to increase your business, the capacity to build more wealth. If you don't know the answer, then you may not know how much opportunity is quietly leaving your financial life. See, I believe every successful person deserves to know that answer. Don't you? So let's walk through the 3 steps. Step number 1, we want to calculate it. Don't guess. We want to measure it. Until you measure it, you can't improve it. The next, that's why we've created our complimentary interest drain calculator. It estimates how interest may be affecting your financial efficiency and helps start the conversation. Step number 2, request your wealth architecture blueprint. This isn't a sales presentation. It's an educational review. Together, we evaluate your financial structure. We identify your strengths, we identify potential inefficiencies, and we discuss opportunities that may improve financial efficiency. Then you decide whether any changes make sense for your situation. Then step number 3 is continue learning. Attend our educational classes. Bring your spouse, bring your business partner, bring your realtor, your CPA, your attorney, because better financial decisions are usually made when everyone understands the same blueprint. So as we consider moving forward, my commitment to you is this. It's simple. I will never try to pressure you. I will never rush you. I will never recommend something simply because it's available. Instead, I want to educate you. I want to answer your questions. I want you to attend my classes. I'm going to provide you with options and help you build a financial structure that supports your goals. And my story is simple. My name is Jeffrey Taylor. For more than 38 years, I've dedicated my career to helping families, professionals, business owners, and real estate investors make more informed financial decisions. I've had the privilege of helping facilitate hundreds of property purchases and working with thousands of individuals who wanted more than just products. They wanted clarity. They wanted confidence. They wanted a strategy. And then to pursue that, this is why I call myself a wealth architect. So here's my final challenge for you. When you close out this video, don't ask how fast can I pay off my property. Ask something much more powerful. How efficient is my money working? How much interest is draining from my future opportunities? How much capital could I redirect towards building wealth? Because the families who ask better questions often make better financial decisions, and better financial decisions made constantly over time can change a family's future. Does that make sense to you? In today's presentation, I want to invite you to take the next step. Schedule your complimentary blueprint review. Receive your personalized interest drain analysis and discover whether your current financial structure is helping or quietly limiting your ability to build wealth. You have nothing to lose except unanswered questions. If you found value in this presentation, please like, please share it, and register for the next class that we're doing. And make sure that you request the free reports relative to this conversation. The information is in the description, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you so much. You have an amazing rest of your day.